What's up, guys? We're back here with another Build Beauties today. And now this Build Beauties is really fun because I get to have a guy that I always see on Octagon all the time. And I did do Deck Daddies recently with him and Ty Tracy. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my guest.
Yeah, hey man, thanks again for having me on. Always a pleasure. My name is Derek, and today we'll be talking about the Saiyan Enhanced Trunks that I have going on here.
So,
So
I,
yeah, main re yeah,
oh, I was just gonna say.
go
So
for it,
I'm
man.
just gonna ask the obvious question. You picked Enhanced Trunks. I've seen a lot of Enhanced Broly. I've seen Enhanced Raditz and Broly from you. So why did you pick Enhanced Trunks? What is the strength here?
Yeah, so part of it was a little bit of like that source material that like we talk about, like how sometimes I like to like I'll watch Z or something, it'll kind of trigger an idea in my head to like build a deck. And for one, I was watching like the history of Trunks or something like that, and I don't know why. Like it made me think of like future Trunks. It has like kind of this inevitability kind of going on with the enhanced mastery. Your attacks are constantly, they're not only milling yourself, but they're also banishing from your opponent's deck. So that inevitable constant trudging that Trunks kind of has to do, like his life kind of sucks in the future and he's coming back to kind of fix it. I don't know. There's some sort of like thing that I don't know why it plays in my head, but the deck itself kind of came about figuring out there's a lot of enhanced Broly running around, and enhanced Broly kind of wants to set up its board, leave it there, and then just engine you out. And so there was a kind of like this was one of those answers. Like Trunks kind of had an answer for that with his named card, and so having that naturally being able to like kind of hit their board, banishing it, getting rid of it, not letting them kind of set their game plan. That was one of the reasons I decided to try Trunks. I thought that the banishment also would not allow that Broly deck to be able to kind of rejuvenate the way that it wanted to.
Yeah.
Just constantly being able to get rid of their discard pile. I mean, there's a couple cards in here that I play more banishment, more discard pile hate for that exact reason because I figured that that would be a strong matchup for me.
I was gonna say,
Um,
do you mean to only run one sword slash? Is there only one copy, or do you
Oh, see,
have?
that's one of those things. It used to be a two of. I double checked it. It's now a one of. But Sword Slash is one
Interesting.
of those that I have had a two of, had out of a one of, and I kind of play with that and Dev Blow in this deck. Like instead of having three Dev Blow, I might do like one Dev Blow, two Sword Slash, or do the one Sword Slash, two Dev Blow. And I try to still kind of fill the three Dev Blow slots in my deck, but I kind of with Trunks I give it a little bit more fluidity because of his named card.
So let's say
Um,
versus the other like Sway Masters. So the whole idea of this deck, it seems like we have the Trunk Sword level one here, and you do run not too crazy on
oh
the
yeah.
freestyle drills. Um, do you try to ever really? Do you really only ever hit level two in like a physical matchup, or do you usually just try to camp one?
Yeah, I usually try to camp one because of the rejuvenation on Trunks one, and then the tutor ability just to give me that shuffle, even if I'm not going for something, just to kind of reshuffle the deck, kind of redistribute the cards that I've put at the bottom.
That's
That's
true.
just such a powerful ability. You know what I mean? Like whenever entering combat, even if you don't have a drill, and then like most times they'll assume that you run like super heavy freestyle drills, and so like sometimes they'll just try to banish the first one that they see, and sometimes you just bring, deflection drill has been one that I've liked because of the meta, or when I built this, kind of where the
Yeah.
meta was kind of shaking out and what people were trying to play. Sorry. Um, but yeah, showdown drill was a two of originally as well. Kind of like moved that around, but back to your original question, I
Yeah.
do stay at one for the most part. And if I want to jump to two, it is in a physical matchup, and I have a couple cards that kind of help push me in that direction as well.
Hmm. So let's talk about the board. We just started talking about like the freestyle board here. Sorry, some authority, but
Oh yeah, you're good, man.
uh, you only run the four different drills here, and you only run two of aggressive sword drill. I'm surprised. So I'm already surprised that there's no acquisition drill and there's not two
Yeah.
showdown drill.
Yes, and I think that that was just kind of like the evolution of the deck, the ebbs and flows. Like when I tend to build a deck, I will kind of like put everything that I feel like needs to go in. And I think originally I had a 2 of acquisition drill in here. Um, and then the more and more I played it, I kind of started leaning more into the damage that I always love. And I think that that's the crux of me, is that I always love just dealing out beats. So that's why there's a lot more kind of attacks it tends to have in this version of the deck. That I know some other people say that you kind of need to do more of like the setups, more planning cards, and get that ball rolling a little bit more. But I think I play more ones that I feel like are more necessary. And when I can get them out, like, I mean, I had originally a 2 of muck drill, but each of these freestyle drills has serves a huge hidden power drill. Basically sets everyone to 5 above. It gives a lot more damage impact to my to some of my like AT plus cards. I have a card in here, Saiyan Flip, also that kind of like synergizes with that
Yeah, I was gonna
kind of
say.
package, so
I,
to speak.
I was gonna say Trunks his level 1. He only gets into B, I think, at 5 above, correct? Yeah. So
Mm,
he's that because that was one issue I had. So like seeing the hidden power drill. You know, one issue I had with wine to run this drill, especially with, like
mm.
Trunks, is because of his low AT. But you know, Saiyan Flip is that
Oh
double-edged
yeah.
sword. You know, kind of it can definitely really kick you in the ass when somebody's whipping around and throwing like 9, 10, 11. Before you throw any extra modifier. Stage attacks at you. It's pretty deadly. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's why it's a 1 of. I mean, and the reason it is because of what you said. Like sometimes the deck just needs a little more oomph,
yeah,
and sometimes it's harder to find that, especially like in this build necessarily, and like in Saiyan. Like I could just do like the maybe the +2 on the physical beats drill. Like I've thought about doing that one, the one that
the
I think
showdown drill.
it's is it Showdown drill,
Yeah, Saiyan
exactly, the
showdown drill.
heroes one that you can level and
And
still retain it,
I was gonna
which is
say
pretty cool.
you don't even. Yeah, I was gonna say you don't have that one. Granted, it's styled buff only, but
Yeah, I know. That was another thought. Like I feel like this is one of those decks, and I think that we talked about it a little before, is that there's so many things you want to put in it. It's so hard to kind of like find that perfect level. I mean, like that's what I think I love discussing it. It's because it kind of opens up those doors and kind of like those holes in which like I can like build the deck and how you can kind of form it into a different thing altogether. Um, basically, yeah. I mean, aggressive sword drill is aggressive sword drill.
yep.
That's like you're gonna probably want to be playing a 2 of that in almost any sword trunks build.
Mm.
Um, Showdown drill is a 1 of. I think it could probably go back to a 2 of as well, but like I have some trouble finding some room. I
Yeah.
Some of these drills as well have been a little bit more of testers. Like if I was to say, out of all my planning cards right here, the ones that I'm like kind of testing out would be more of the anguish drill,
Yeah, like I've been looking at that
and
one.
the menace.
I was gonna ask you. Yeah, so we're just kind of jumping. We're trying to stamp over. We're definitely jumping into the combo piece with everything else. But um, what's
Yeah,
interesting?
I feel bad. I don't want to take it in that direction too soon, but it
Oh yeah.
helps talk about it. I feel like
But let's
yeah,
yeah, so as far as pretty standard goes, I mean, overpowering aura drill is usually pretty standard. I mean, you do run some touch cards. Swiss
yeah.
sword drill staple for trunks. Muck drill is like a staple for enhanced. Um
Enhanced.
I have a hard time not running this card at least a 2 in like every enhanced deck I build personally. Protection drill is
Yeah.
really good. I think it's like a 1. Uh transformation drill is just great mirror tech.
Mhm.
And I should say mirror tech, but just tech. Menace is I really like the menace, especially with the trunks level 1 having
Oh
regen
yeah,
on it. Um,
yeah.
the
I do like that too.
the anguish drill though is really peculiar. Why did you opt to run anguish drill?
So this is one of those that I saw a problem with the deck, and I kind of just tried to like fit this thing in essentially. Reason being is it gives you anger, and sometimes like I would find myself in those anger, or I'd find myself in those physical beats matchups, and I'd be like, dude, I just need like one more anger just to kind of get to this next level before like they kind of like lower my anger a few and shut me down. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it just takes that one extra anger. And I think that's another reason why I maybe went up to the second dev blow, and now I'm trying anguish drill, because I think that there was a few matchups I had where I was like, man, if I just got to level 2, I could have had this game. And it was just 1 or 2 anger here or there. And so that's why I wanted to give Anguish Drill a shot. Um, so far in testing, it's been interesting. Uh, I never get to 3 or higher, so the banish from play never really comes into effect. But I usually get the anger to get to my level 2. And sometimes off of the pass, I've never done it yet, but I thought of like maybe off of a trunk slam, forcing the pass, you could get the 2 anger off of that and then level if necessary, because it's a 3
Yeah.
anger swing there. It's definitely one of those, like, you have to set it up, it has to happen, but
It is
I thought it was worth it.
that is a combo actually. I've never yeah, that is I mean, I didn't think about that at first. I was kind of looking at it and I was thinking um there is that Saiyan drill that came out in Fusion, I believe. Yes, it came out in Fusion. It's got Vegito on it. It's got the Endurance 4 and it's the every time it's like when you would raise your anger, you can lower your opponent's anger instead. I
Oh,
was thinking that
yes.
would be a really good card with this Anguish drill. I feel like I've seen that used with
Mm.
at least somebody's hands probably, but I do actually. You explaining it out, I was like, I was like kind of just thinking. I was thinking, because I wasn't even gearing towards thinking Trunks is leveling. I'm just so used to Trunks camping. I'm like that actually. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do like that you run this though. I feel like you can probably chain out at least a few actions. I mean, you have at least one on board with a mastery. This is a on board action. Um,
Mhm.
Potentially like a rescue plus whatever's in your
Mhm.
hand to build action. So I could see this giving you the 2 anger. Plus, it's not like it hurts you to go up either. So this is cool. I like it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I, my biggest issue, I've tried to build enhanced
Yeah.
trunks, or not necessarily enhanced trunks, but like Saiyan trunks myself. And my biggest issue is like kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I run out of space for board. I want to run everything. So I think you did a really good job at
Yeah.
streamlining it. It seems very streamlined, at least on the freestyle part. That's usually where I try to just fit too much, personally. Um,
Yeah.
but I do like what you're trying to experiment here and the numbers you're playing with in the board. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I tried to lessen the board, but that's just more my play style. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I I kind of like to I tend to try big board decks, but they never seem to come together for me. Like, I always, like, once in a while I'll get all the board out and I'll feel really like big brain and be like, ha ha ha, like, you can't take this board down. I got super
yeah.
lucky to drop three in a row. Happened against Chop in one of the tournaments, but this is kind of more my style. Trying to go for beats. I love the interaction with Saiyan Swift Sword Drill and like his named card, and even that in like Saiyan Sword Strike. I think that right there is just like I enjoy that part of the deck. Get that little combo
Oh,
sword
I
slash
love
Frieza or whatever, and
I love Saiyan Sword Strike. It's like, oh my god, the card is just so dirty. When you get it off for the Unstoppable, it is just so gross. I used to,
oh, Unstoppable and Preventable is so beautiful, man.
yeah.
Like, oh god, getting it rolling.
So
When you get it rolling, it's fun.
yeah, so we kind of hit on the board. Do you think let well, I'll come back to the board at kind of a little bit at the end here, but let's move on to the events here.
Sure.
So you run two of Hero Sphere Confro. Now this is something that I see a lot of people talk about is running two of each. They don't want to entirely sell all the way to one or the other. You run two Rescue, and you did put Ball 7 Earth here. Sorry, excuse me. Um, why 2-2? First off, for the
Yeah.
Sphere Confro.
Uh, I started with 2-2, and it's kind of, I think I went up to 3 Confro at one point, just because a lot of the times, like, if you do dead draw, you want to be able to look at your opponent's hand and kind of mitigate that terrible combat for you. Same reason why I play Ball 7. And then I have another combat ender as well, along with Trunk Slams. It's because this deck does have enough dead cards and that he wants to be able to dodge combat. It's Trunks. In almost every iteration, he's got the skip effect or the combat ending somewhere in his stack. Whenever you're playing a Trunks deck, they're going to end combat on you.
Mm,
Um, I think that the 2-2 is just because that's my comfort zone. I like having 2-2. I like having the ability to have 2 spheres in my deck. I used to play like one of spheres sometimes if I'm trying to be like really like loose with it. And
yeah.
sometimes if people see the one sphere come off the top, then they think that I have more in my deck. So sometimes it's just that mental game that I like to play with just the one of spheres, but two is like it feels right. I'm playing two sphere, two confro. It's not too much, not too little. It's
I,
just the right amount.
I was gonna say, as far as the sphere goes, you really don't run that many events. I was looking at your list here. You have the four block events, and then you have confrontation, arguably a block. If you think about it, you could knock an attack out if you needed to, but and then rescue.
Yeah.
And rescue, you only can sphere it, when it's being attached. If you're playing it from hand, otherwise you can attach it with other effects, of course. So I thought that was really interesting. You know, versus like saying go in three confrontation because um, a lot of people advocate sphere if you yourself play events. Some people like Josh. We've talked about Josh before. Josh Gregory. He's like in
Yeah.
the three sphere at all times club. So that's really interesting.
Oh yeah, the Sphere King, dude. He
Yeah,
he spheres me, and I think he always gets me because he plays that third sphere, and I always play the two spheres because
yeah,
then he'll have the two in hand whenever I'm like, I got my sphere to sphere your thing, and oh no, shit, you double sphered me,
yeah.
great. But I mean, for me, like a double sphere is what makes a good Z tournament. Like, bam, oh, did you get double sphered today? Yeah, I did. Like, shit,
Oh
it's
man,
rough,
it's been a long
but
time since that happens for sure.
oh, yeah, in
Uh,
real life, it's all the more beautiful. But it'll happen again one day. It will. It will. I have faith.
so you went to rescue. Now I take it that rescue is super vital to you that you're running into.
I think, yeah, I definitely love me a rescue. I think that it's really what just kind of gets the deck going. The quote unquote engine for me is the mastery, trunks, and rescue. It's just gonna the rejuve there. It's four usually, like because I'll be playing a sword card at some point, whether on the defensive or on the offensive, um, or pulling from the deck with when entering effect. So
Yeah. I figure, yeah, I mean, I figure, every turn. That is one thing that I think kind of gets forgotten about. Again, like, we'll go back. So I will back up to the Menace real quick. Is like, you and me were talking about it before the video here. You have a fair amount of rejuvenation effects, between board and everything, but Trunks constantly giving you a rejuvenation effect every time you play a sword card actually adds up to quite a bit throughout the game. And being able to aggressive sword drill means you're rejuvenating at least, like you said, three every turn, four with the rescue. So I think that's I definitely understand the whole engine thing. That's really interesting. Then ball seven, you
yeah,
just wanted more combat control. This sounds like because Trunks sends combat.
yeah. Exactly. I didn't want to go with the second blinding. Originally it was the two blindings, and I was like,
Yeah,
and I keep hitting shit that I want to keep in the deck. So then I was like, well, I can split the difference and throw in ball seven,
yeah.
whatever.
Ball seven's a
And
free blinding.
there's also a time, exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
free blinding. And I have gone with Nam ball seven before too, which I mean, Nam ball seven just wins games late if you can just slap it in there whenever.
yeah.
But I felt like giving it more control is better. And honestly, with all the rejuvenation, I always feel comfortable going down to one of rescue. But whenever I do, dude, I'll tell you, like people always kill
Kill
my
it.
rescue.
Yeah,
Like whenever I have the one of, it's just like, oh, you've got the mule kick now. But if I had
yeah,
my two rescues, you wouldn't see mule kick all day, and then I'd have the other one in my hand, and just
yeah.
like, you know,
So you start talking about the text, so we'll move on to the text. So you do run the one blinding, you do run the one ball seven. Um, you have a lot of three ups, despite the fact that you are a relatively rejuve heavy deck.
yeah. And honestly, like because I think that that's just kind of the carryover from the initial build is that I knew what the bare bones of the deck was and like kind of where I wanted it to be, kind of like the bones of it, like where I wanted it to be steeped in. And it really was revolving around the Trunks named cards, like the named suite, like kind of like what I talked about to you in our video last week, is that I always look at the named cards, the named suite with the MP and the mastery is kind of
Mm.
where I pull my build. And this one kind of like really it's a good example of that. I'm going with the trunk slams.
I almost want to
Um,
slightly rescind my argument because then I'm like, wait a minute, I did miscount like the dive. But like, yeah, and actually they're it's actually pretty evenly split between like two three ofs, two or like two ofs and three ofs. So, um, seems like the only
yeah,
things that you're three ofing are
there's a
sword
few.
stuff, other than sword
The
stuffs
sword stuff,
and drill stuff.
turning kicks. Yeah, drill stuff, sword stuff.
Yeah.
That's what Trunks likes to do. Um, that's kind of what how I wanted to win, and so like I'll get wins with it. It's not perfect, but it definitely has some good synergy. The knee bashes are ultimate board hate. You can hit anything that's important. It banishes it, minus an ally, I guess, and that's the crux of Trunks. But we have
The
some
crux of
answers for that in
the
here.
crux of Trunks. That should be just a like they like Score had all the linear cards like Luck of Trunks and stuff. One of my favorite cards, by the way, from Score. But I'm
Yeah,
noticing yeah, and you don't really have any ally hate. You do have some board. You have the some of the best board clear in the game is Trunks D-Bash. You can loop it, aggressive sword drill or
yeah.
turn. But what I'm really surprised about is yeah, like no Saiyan spin kick. Um,
Um, honestly, now that you mention
Or like
that, like
Smack,
it's
Saiyan
it's one of
Smack would
those
be really good
cards.
too, because that can combo really good with Hidden Power Drill. If you get them to 0, they all get banished.
Oh, Saiyan Smack. Is that the one that gives all allies
Media effect,
like four
all
if
allies
hit?
lose 2, and then on hit, all your opponent's personalities lose 4.
Ah. Yeah, that sounds like it'd be fun. I mean, what would you suggest? Like a one of, just kind of like hoping for that hit
I
when it's
mean,
time
yeah, like
for
a
it.
1 or 2. I mean, the way that I used to look at Smack in the earlier sets, when I was like, it's an AT5 with extra work, because it's an AT like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I think it's like an AT1. Then if it hits, they lose 4 on everybody. So it's like, guess it's like a AT, it's like a soft AT5. Um, I don't know. I know some people really love that card. I think that would be real. I mean, personally, I think it'd be really cool with the hidden power drill. I think it's just such a good combination, and it banishes all the allies versus like kills them. So like it's a bit harder to recur them. Just a thought.
It's
Would
definitely harder to pull off, but it's a good way to just board clear them. I like that.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a really cool combo. Yeah, so we get it. I mean, I'm just seeing the three as the obvious stuff. Turning kick is just amazing. So is Tandem Strike. How do you feel about that card? I mean, you get the full effects being a human trait.
I do. That one I could probably go down to a two of and be fine with. I mean, maybe even more so because it's like I just wanted some good drill synergy in the deck, and I saw that say an aerial attack is good, but my power stages aren't the greatest. And if I'm up against a physical beats deck, I'm
Yeah,
trying to dip dive, dodge combat as much as
dodge deck,
possible. And
dodge.
yeah, you know what I mean. I'm always
Yeah,
thinking
I
dodgeball
love
or
dodge.
whatever,
Yeah,
some
it's like
reference.
one of my favorites. But yeah,
But yeah,
oh, so,
costs too much, man. No, that
yeah.
was all it was. And then like against the physical beats matchups, tandem strike kind of puts me in a much better position. Like if I don't have a way out of combat, it's my cat. It's a way to kind of like get me a block, and then more value based on like if I can get the hit. But it's really just to gain the extra stages
Yeah.
on another physical block, so to
It
speak.
is. It is. Yeah. I mean, that I think that's actually like the unsung effect of it. Like gaining stages is actually incredibly powerful. There's not enough cards that like give stages for you to like always notice it in the game, but like it's definitely pretty annoying. Man,
Yeah.
it'd be really cool if Saiyan had some card that shut off stage gain. That was a drill. That was a drill. There is upward
Oh,
kick.
okay. I was gonna say,
I know. I
yeah,
started saying
upward kick.
sentence.
It's okay.
I had to very much like make sure I was very specific about that sentence because I was gonna get clowned by anybody that's gonna like
Yeah.
go back to movie collection. Uh,
No,
with
no worries. Very not many people played that card. A few people do,
yeah.
and like some of those like combo decks where you don't want like stage locks. But
How do you feel about
another one could come out one day.
yeah? How do you feel about Sane Dive in this deck too? You do have this a two of and you have Backcrash a two of. Just any thoughts about those two cards to kind of round up? The Tracking Blast two actually. I want to know about these three cards. Everything else kind of makes sense to me, but those three cards, the last three, we haven't touched on: Dive, Backcrash, and Tracking Blast.
Appreciate the questioning. Because honestly, I'm as we're talking, I'm writing down cards that I'm seeing I've missed or I've taken out and that I want to put back in.
Yeah.
So like when you're asking me these questions, it's actually the cogs are turning here too. Like I might even have another iteration of this by the end of this video, but I think that there's so much in just talking through decks because, for example, now that I'm thinking about it, Dive is maybe unnecessary. I liked putting it in there because I wanted to make sure I had the hate when I needed it. And so like having it at the 3 of for the knee bash is great. But like whatever I've noticed is that like if I just rely on like the one thing,
Yeah.
for some reason, like I always get blown in my face. Like I get blown up. It's just like, oh, I'm playing just those 3 hate cards, and all of a sudden I'll play up against somebody who, I don't know, Bulma's it from my graveyard, and now I can't play the rest of mine because Bulma's
Yeah.
out or something like that.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, even like orange trunks, for example. I mean, granted they have orange stare down, which is like you'd be silly not to run, but yeah, it feels like you can't all in on just one board card or board hate card.
yeah, and then the back crash is similar to that too. It's just like I noticed that I was having some trouble up against Dragon Ball decks, and it's just another ally answer as well from your graveyard.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
can just
That's true.
pop it, all the rejuvenation we were talking about. I think honestly, I don't know. There are times I want to go to a 3 of it just because having crit on demand feels really good, and I have kind of had that from some games at Project Z with that
Yeah.
Zarbon deck, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just the stage damage doesn't do a lot for me sometimes too. The discard effect sometimes comes into play. Maybe a dead card I can get rid of. Um, but I think that I would like to try to find some room, maybe for like that Saiyan Smack. And this is probably where I could start to shave some of these numbers. Tracking Blast is if I want to get to 2,
You just want some
then
protection.
I want to make sure I can stay there essentially, no
Yeah.
matter what I'm playing. If I get to 2, if it's against maybe a Dragon Ball deck as well, because that's where I play my name cards. I get the crit.
Hmm.
I can hit those Dragon Balls and not be completely behind. And in the Dragon Ball decks, they all have ways to de-level you like a million times. So I just wanted to, in that matchup, when I did get, try to have some sort of protection. And it might be like thinking too far ahead though, because it's kind of hard to make that all happen. But when I have gotten to 2 and I've had Tracking Blast attached, it's worked out about 50-50,
Okay.
like so I could also see that one being cut because it does cost 3 stages as well. It's kind of a hefty cost for somebody who doesn't run any allies. I do have a couple of stage gains with Tandem Strike, but that card can sometimes not feel the greatest either. And it's for the same reason we talked about. I don't think Trunks has greatest AT damage, and being able to push huge damage, it's a little bit harder. But he does have a good way of kind of controlling and then finding that time to strike at the opponent, which is what I find fun about this deck, sort of. That's kind
Nice.
of the goal
Oh,
here.
that sounds cool.
Yeah,
I was gonna say also, one final thing I do have. You don't have dashing sword
yeah.
attack, which is interesting too. A lot of every trunks ever that I see that's like Saiyan Sword always has like there's just all in on the sword stuff, and you don't have like there's like that. And then I think that you occasionally, do you see people run like I think like Saiyan Swatch or whatever or Swipe or whatever it's fuck. I forget what the fuck it's called. It's the awakening card. You rejuvenate 3 cards of sword in the title from your discard pile, and then hit
Oh
rejuvenate
yes.
1 or something like that, or like hit raise a 1 or something. I forgot what the hit effect is.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's a banish after use too. I know which
Yeah,
one you're talking
it's
about
like
because I always like look at it and then I'm always like,
mm,
nah.
doesn't do
It's always
anything.
on the table. I just push it off the table before I start playing. It's like, yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah,
Yeah, honestly, Dashing Sword is a beautiful card. I love playing Dashing Sword, but at the same time, it's like I've played it in this deck a few times, and I don't know. I think that's maybe why Tandem Strike has found its way in because I've had so many instances of getting stage locked myself
mm,
against opposing physical mirrors, trying to get to that level 2, not being able to. And so I think that's kind of what ended up happening. I started cutting cards that cost me more stages and tried to find ways to mitigate and like not have to use any of my own stages to be performing as many attacks. So I think that's why like the aerial attack and Trunk Sword Slash are the only 2 that I'll really throw that have stage cost to them.
yeah.
And the only stage cost that I want to have to do is the sword drill ability. And if I can get that to pop off, then hooah, that's where the deck really starts going.
Swift Sword
That's
is
where it's like,
it's a very good card. You can actually rejuvenate
uh,
it with level 2 also, which is kind of interesting. In case you
yes,
really
you
want to.
can.
So But
Yeah. Oh, we're almost done here, Jenna. You good? All right, cool. Sorry.
no, you're okay. So
um,
we've. Oh, go ahead. If you got any closing comments on the text, we'll move on to the blocks here.
yeah, no, just that was what it was. I kind of like leaned into the drill package here.
Yeah.
Leaned into the rejuvenation. Um, I leaned into turning kicks because they're great finishers for the deck. A way to win. Getting the 7 life card unpreventable is kind of like your big Maya if you can get it to kind of pop off.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think I just do Saiyan dive because I want extra board hate. I do sword slash because I mean you get the 6 banish, which is huge. The hit styled energy doesn't really come into effect. Like there might be that one time that I have aerial attack in hand, and I'm like, yes, now I can aerial attack willingly, and
Yeah.
it won't really happen too often. But,
Yeah. You know, the
but
only.
yeah,
I mean, Ariel does search discard pile. That's really the only reason I consider it in any stage beat deck. So versus Tandem's only life deck. So,
yeah,
but well, let's move on to the blocks. I
being
mean,
able to get the
oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, just being able to get that to pop off twice, that kind of like wins a game. Just eliminating an entire discard pile. I think for a lot of decks that like to rejuvenate, you just want to hit their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then double knee bash is speaks for itself, and so does the double sword strike. Yeah, you get that. You get it, Frank. You know
Yeah.
what's going on here.
Yeah. I mean, just the main loops stuff. But so we'll just move into the blocks real quick. You opted to
Yeah.
go knee clash. Yeah, you went knee clash as your Omni versus like Outrage. Um, we've already kind of talked about Trunks having just bad, and AT, so you're never really
Yeah.
gonna get that attach. But we have knee clash,
Right.
sword dodge. I mean, kind of just obvious. I feel like you're gonna run that, but you opted to run energy evasion. I'm assuming you just kind of wanted the pure mastery synergy on that one.
That's correct. Yeah, I just wanted the pure mastery synergy. I wanted to be able to continually push inevitability. And it's just a really good card for this mastery. It just works really well. When I saw it revealed, I was like, hey, it's exactly what I needed to kind of lean into this mastery a little bit as well. Because sometimes the block lines really do pull me into a mastery as well. And then for this deck too, like you said, sword dodge is just nuts. So like being able to grab another block if need be, or being able to grab an attack, it gives you that versatility that I know it doesn't have any endurance, which is something that people have talked about. Sometimes they really want a lot of endurance, but it's BAU, it's those like combo interactions that
Yeah,
this deck finds its momentum with,
it
if
is.
that makes
I was
sense.
gonna say
Like
it's the only sort of hand filter too in the deck. Well, not. Well, sorry. There was the one. There was one other card. It was the back crash is kind of not really a hand filter, but do something with that hand. But sword dodge is the only active card looks like that is a hand filter. So there's that as well.
yeah, that's a hand filter. I mean, back crash. If you end up drawing it with dead card, it can help you out of that situation. But it's just a blind draw into whatever the deck has for you. But then also, yeah, Clash. I went Clash because the same stuff that you were saying. Outrage just doesn't flow really well here.
Yeah.
And Knee Clash, I needed more anger hate. That's something that I noticed in my deck that I kind of skimped on. And I mean, honestly, Knee Clash has been fire. Like it's
Oh,
awesome to
it's
play up against an anger deck.
that card is very very annoying. Like very very good. Like well, we've if by the time this is going to come out,
Yeah.
the knee clash is a very key component in another deck for another player whose deck list will be posted.
Hey,
So foreshadowing.
good to hear. Good vibes. The Knee Clash vibes.
Yeah,
I like it. I
very
like
very good,
it.
very very good card though. Two resistance and the one flip. So I'm assuming you just the one flip is just the situational I need it, and the two resistance. Why did you just want the potential anger to get to two, or did you just like not really care for skips, like with like the
Yeah,
reverse
it's the
catch?
potential anger. I've been interested in playing reverse catches. People have kind of pushed me off of those though, unless I'm going to be playing more of an oppressive build.
Hmm.
just because I used to kind of be like, hey, I think it's just really valuable to be able to double action in a row, kind of do that tempo based play. And I enjoyed it, but then I also felt that in this deck, I wanted a little bit more, just some other anger slots. And that was kind of where I found a way to kind of play in a little bit more anger into the deck as well. So
Hmm.
being able to attach, gain an anger at will when necessary, help me push up as well. And then flip is just a one of, no more than, because it has screwed me over and it will. It's kind of like one of those that you have to play it. I mean, you don't have to play it. I like playing it because it's fun. It
What
really
mat
pumps the deck up when
what
you do it.
matchup would you say that you would actually attach flip? Like what is the matchup that comes to your mind that made you want to run this card,
Oh
or
yeah,
or the experience?
any ener- any energy beats kind of deck. People that aren't going to be using a lot of AT stuff, life card beats decks. Um, there wasn't a lot in Broly against Broly. Like he played a few AT stages, but for the most part, I'm going to get much more value out of that. That was initially where this deck kind of derived from, was the like, how can I build something that kind of go up against the meta, but also kind of have my own ways of dealing with things. And so that's kind of what this came about when I saw that the meta was going to be a little bit more like be control oriented, maybe have some more like solely like life beats focused decks.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was like, maybe a one of could work. Against any physical beats, though, I don't really want to attach it because
Yeah.
I will be punished way more than they will. So yeah, it's situational by far, and you really have to kind of like feel it out. And there are some matchups that I'll just throw it on for like the sake of it. Like, hey man, this is probably not the best. I'm gonna throw it on, test it out, and see where it goes. You know,
I was gonna say at worst you can always banish it with knee bash.
because yeah,
Yeah.
the saving grace is being
Yeah.
able to get my own stuff or being forced into it as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes sucks, but yeah, having that around to be able to banish it,
Hmm.
it's not too bad. Good looking out, man. Good looking out. I almost missed that one.
Yeah.
I was like,
So okay, two more kind of questions, comments. But first comment: no, I'll dig your grave.
ah, and I love digs. I do love digs. I play
Yeah.
digs in like a lot that I play, and I love. Well, I like to play resourceful, but
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, it's just the room thing, man.
Yeah.
Like
It's pretty tight.
I, I feel like I'm gonna be doing a lot of changing here, like a lot of different like structural changes to the deck. I mean, I might kind of like, but see, every time I think of one thing, like for example,
Yeah.
okay, cool, maybe I'll cut the back crashes, or maybe I'll cut the dive. So then I have 4 slots open up, and maybe get rid of that. So now I've got 5. I feel like that can now be like more. Yeah, I can slam a dig in there and kind of push more aggro rather than trying to push more like techie stuff.
Yeah.
I think that that could be. I think that could be something that I would like to try out. Because honestly, if I can get the ball rolling and it's unpreventable, oh, well, that's probably what it is. Okay.
Yeah. The
It's because I
biggest.
play aggressive sword drill and all my big hitters are pretty much unpreventable already.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fair. Yeah. I suppose.
Because, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, my biggest. Yeah. I mean, like my issue with Trunks, I just feel like I don't do any damage when I play him. Um,
yeah.
that's my
No,
issue. That's my issue that I
I'm
have with
right
him.
there with you.
Yeah. So I mean, the enhance makes a good pairing in that sense because it helps mitigate or make up for that. It helps you play. I think Sword Trunks specifically his Vengeance level 1 is more geared towards the long game, like mid long game. It's not like fast like Deborah. Um, I kind of throw Tapion in the lot that he's maybe quicker than Trunks almost. Like he's got just this like more raw like hand engine versus Trunks is the board engine, but Trunks is way better tech. So
Yeah.
Trunks just like sits there and he slows your opponent down. Um, I think, and I feel like your board. I feel like you have like the right number of board. I don't know. I don't play enough to do the Saiyan, but I think your choices on the freestyle are very interesting. They're very streamlined. They're very smart for what you're trying to do. They're not overloaded with like all the
man.
extra board.
Thank you.
Like, yeah, no man. The acquisition drill, like quick drill and all that stuff. I'd even say almost like deflection drill is the really toss up one, but that's just the kind of the nature of the freestyle drills.
Yeah,
It's kind of the same thing with showdown drills, just kind of going to be dead matchups. Um, but I think that part of the deck is pretty like set. I could see for my
yeah.
own
And
critique or whatever.
honestly, I can see Dig. I can
Yeah,
see Dig now that I'm thinking about it. It's just it's like it's an on hit level,
it could bump you
which
to two.
sometimes that's all I need.
Yeah, and like a ball matchup you're talking about, you could always bump yourself up to two. Against drill decks, you can potentially bump to make the lose the drills. Not most of, given the lack of anger hate per se, not always the ideal, but Wallbreaker 2 is now good because of the leash changes.
Yeah,
Um, I should say good, but better. So
yeah.
um,
Better enough to play again
better
and
enough to
kind of
play
come
again.
out of the
Better
woodwork.
enough to play again, but it also does like no damage. So there's a problem there with it. Saiyan Severing Punch is another card that like you can see that I've already named like a bunch of attacks, and like we get back to the issue is
Oh
like
yeah,
where do you fit all the stuff? Because
where's it going?
Trunks has his own engine that's incredibly like it hijacks so much deck building space. So again, like the biggest thing, the accommodation is just like you kept it very like tight in terms of the freestyle stuff that you were going to run. Obviously, there's some play and personal choices and such with like the attack lineup
Yeah.
and like the vents, for example, the two that I mentioned earlier. But I do really like again. I think you've definitely really kind of kept yourself there feels like there's the very still a small core, and you still have a lot you can build around it. It's just kind of like you're just kind of like trying to figure out how that core interacts with the rest of it with the Saiyan card pool, and I think it's a difficult
Yeah.
endeavor, honestly, especially um, enhanced is I think a lot less straightforward. So kudos to you for trying to tackle it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, and thanks for chatting me up about it. Honestly, this is a blast. Like being able to kind of dissect the deck. You're making me think about it in different ways. Like I'm already like, okay, I can see how this entire deck can kind of shift it into something. Like I'm writing down different cards. Like
Oh yeah,
even thinking of like saying peace. Like maybe a saying piece or two would be solid in here to have some more anger hate in the deck, which I think I had it in here at one point. But going more physical beats, I think could be interesting. I think
yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to take it. I think you're right. Trunks kind of hijacks, but also like he enhances. So I think it's kind of like the ebb and flow of deck building,
Oh
man. It's
man,
always
that's
there. It's
and
like
that's and
I
that's
could,
the punchline right there. Yeah,
yeah, the ebbs and flows, man. We'll figure it out. And then yeah, like honestly, I'm excited to see what some people have to say about it too. That's something that I'm interested in to see kind of how I can improve the deck and maybe some other people's takes on the deck. It's just it's something that I've enjoyed playing.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's definitely one I've enjoyed building. Me and Chop talk about this deck. He kind of helped me get it to where it is right now, and now you are also part of the helping of evolving the deck. So thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, no problem. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's like my only concern with if I was to build it now, I got these crazy ideas in my head now. I'm just like, like you gotta in the deck building process, if you're gonna build it, I feel like you gotta differentiate it between like that and like the enhanced board bro, like the control Broly. Like you gotta play the trunk strength that he has versus Broly's. Broly's playing like he gets the anti-anger through the engine, so he's got to run all this like board. Um, Trunks can do it with the acquisition drill if you want to go that route. But that just kind of like again throws all these freestyles in your deck. So like yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of different. There's just
Yeah,
so many different paths you can go with him. You can definitely do a control build with him. You could do like a Dragon Ball build with him. You could do all sorts of weird stuff with him. I feel like he's just such a versatile MP between the stuff you can
very
stack.
much so.
So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious what your games have been like with this.
Oh, this one, I mean, they've gone kind of like back and forth. I mean, for the
Mm,
most part, if I can set up, if I can get an engine going, like more so, if I can get like rescue attached, and I can kind of the game doesn't go by too fast. As long as it's not super quick, like
yeah.
if the opponent's not coming out turn one, scanning me with like, here's tri beam, ha ha ha, and I'm just blown away. Um, good thing is that this deck can still kind of recover from an early combat beatdown too, because of all the rejuvenation. If you can start to kind of slowly set yourself up, and being able to dodge combat if they're constantly pressuring you, you're filtering through your deck with the when entering effects. So it it doesn't have the greatest matchup against super early aggro decks, but it has a greater matchup against those mid-range decks or those like board decks that are trying to like get themselves set up. And that's kind of what I wanted with the deck. And so far, that has proven to be pretty strong. Like when I'm playing up against an ally deck, I can get faced, and that tends to happen. But
Yeah,
maybe with a couple smacks, dude. I don't know. Smack
I'm
seems like it
telling
could
you,
just be like one of those.
smack in menace, like in the. I mean, maybe you don't need it because you have menace, um, but smack and menace with hidden power drill is. I mean, wha- the both of the hidden power drills just disgusting. Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting. So it's a thought. I mean, I think
Oh
maybe
yeah.
menace already kind of takes its spot up and is almost a bit more. It's definitely a lot more directly synergistic.
Yeah,
With
with hidden power drill, like so
well,
that
I was
works
gonna
out really
with
well.
it
And like,
being a rejuventer play for the menace. It's
oh,
that's more synergistic than like say smack would be, but it'd be a consideration if you really want to improve the ally matchup. I think that would be. I would say it's almost better than spin kick because spin kick, doesn't banish and it has to. It always like the ally decks are gonna probably because you're gonna probably be passing. The ally deck's gonna have Icarus or Super Shenron out, um, as well. So, versus you could just do a mass
yeah.
banish potentially. I think because of the way that Hidden Power Drill works, that like even if they had Icarus or Super Shenron, it would still banish them all because it would just like the constant would kick in, the ally would redirect it, they'd get banished, and then next, then it would all of a sudden loop again around because it's constant, and then it would banish the allies anyway. Um,
Is
it
that a
would.
similar ruling to like Broly level 4? If like
Uh,
Icarus is out, does it also wipe the board or no? I'm
no,
kind of
Broly level 4 just
wondering
is a
up the
one
weird
time. It's
interaction.
not. It's not a constant. It's an instant power. It's a active power. The
I
constant is
see.
why I would have the loop. Because it's continuous, so it'd have the loop. Um,
I see, yeah, because then it gets rid of Icarus and then it gets rid of the rest of them. Yeah,
yeah,
board wipes are huge, man.
because
Not in like this game, you have to find those board wipes sometimes
yeah,
in certain
I
styles.
think it's just. I think
So
especially
really
because
good
you
on
have
you.
hidden power drill, you can literally start at turn one. Like if you just luck into menace, like if they're kicking your butt, they knock a menace in your
Yeah.
pile, you just rejuvenate the menace and like hidden power drill. Okay, cool. And then worst case scenario, you add smack on that. So, I think that would just be really good to add. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just take into consideration. But otherwise,
Thank
yeah,
you. I got it in the book, man.
yeah.
I'm already 10 steps ahead right now.
If
I'm really excited to see where this thing goes.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the best one I can think of. Showdown Drill, Saint Showdown Drill sounds really cool in practice. With Trunks, I think you just run too many freestyles, and it's like you never prioritize searching it. Personally, for me, I'm always going for like overpowering Aura Drill or Swift Sword Drill, or
Yeah.
Transformation Drill sometimes even. And all the Saiyan stuff has like got to hit or Protection Drill even too. Muck Drill. Those cards I'm all going to get way before I'd ever get Showdown.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. Showdown Drill has the same kind of anti-ally esque effect as well. So just something to think about. But
Yeah.
I really otherwise I think the attack line is definitely like you could play with it. You definitely there's just so much pulling you in different directions with wanting to have enhanced synergy, wanting to have trunk synergy, wanting to go aggro. What degree of aggro? So by all means, it's definitely a challenging deck to take on. So I'm curious. I'm curious what other people have for suggestions. I'm curious to see where you take this one. You'll have to report back to me on how it goes.
For sure, man. We'll have a couple games after I'm done, like kind of tweaking it and seeing kind of where it all lands. Maybe we'll play a few, like a best of 3 or something.
Yeah,
You pick up a deck and
I'll
I'll
have
throw
to.
this at it.
One of these. Yeah, I'll have to play. Next time I have an evening free, I'll have to do another stream or something. I'll hit you up and we'll have to get a game or two in at least for sure.
Yeah, man. It'll be good times.
Yeah, man.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you so much, dude. Much appreciated. You've given me a lot to think about. As always, whenever I look at this deck, I tend to like overthink things, and so I think that where it's at right now, I'm happy with it. Definitely could use a little bit of work, and I like what you said. It kind of makes sense because that's like how I've sort of built it. Is I've got like where I want to like live in a lot of the three ofs, and then the two
Mm-hmm.
ofs and the one ofs are stuff that you can kind of flip around and change. And there's a lot to mess around with this like setup package and the planning package, I guess. And I think that I might go a little bit more aggressive at first and kind of see where that takes me, and then maybe kind of fall back into at least trying maybe a more setup heavy variant and see how that kind of works out. I've always been worried just because of my own hate card,
Yeah,
bring my own deck, but you never know, man. So we'll see what it all turns out to be. But thank you for having me on again. Much appreciated as always.
absolutely. Like I said, the whole format, the whole points, have players, show off and showcase. And I know you're always out there playing, and I definitely enjoy doing the deck daddies with you. So it was
Yeah,
no
man.
no hassle on my end to ask you to do something. I'm really glad. I think people really enjoy this. I think this is like a really nice. Again, I think people love Trunks, but I also think offering
Yeah,
offering uh like another enhanced deck, another Trunks deck for one, but another enhanced deck that's not Broly, that definitely has
yeah,
its own flavors and ways to and kind of its own like tempo. Trunks is just he's just so good at like tempo control, like you said with his combat ending earlier,
yeah.
as well as his loopable board cards. Like you try to you excel in the middle of the game, the late game. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. I really do think that there's got to be something. I mean I haven't played against the deck enough, but there's got to be something really good here. I know Trunks has just got a lot going on, and I think it's just a matter of kind of cracking that. I'm sure if you put the time on it, I'm sure you'll definitely figure it out. So, but yeah, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, man.
Derek. I'm
Well,
really glad you
hey,
came.
doing our best.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, man. I always enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, guys, this is the end of the today's Build Beauties with Derek Faraji. If you want to, you can always send me a message either through YouTube or Facebook, and we can try to do a deck showcase together if there's something that you want to do. If you do have any comments or suggestions for Derek's deck, by all means, post it in the comments. I really appreciate you guys all for watching, and yeah, take it easy and peace.